Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994 I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Like I've been telling y'all, I've been having some complications with my page being monetized and this and that. But anyway, until then, I'm gonna just hit y'all with a little bit of talking and stuff like that, man. I'm gonna say the stories until I get that situation all worked out. So a lot of times I would get a lot of questions asking me about how I was able to do 24 years straight in prison, man. And I would say the same way other dudes who done that time or even more. You know, the brother Banky Pound, who got a good YouTube channel, he done 33 years. It was a dude by the name of Dr. Larry who done 42 years. He unfortunately passed away not too long ago. But the same way they done their time, man. You know, basically, outside of being murdered in prison, dying, and committing suicide, when you get sentenced to time, you don't have no choice but to do it. You know, of course, I would have loved to came home way earlier. To keep it 100, I would have loved to never have even went to the damn pen. You know what I'm saying? But you know, you got to do the time. So there are some things, though, that definitely made it easier for me to do my time. And one of those things was my mentality and my ideology. You know, of course, nobody wants to be in prison, whether they're guilty or innocent, you know. Me, of course, you know, I was guilty, but hey, it like I said, it comes with the territory. And that's the mentality that I had embraced. You know, I know that you know, being out there in the street selling dope, gang banging or whatever, there are potential risks that come with those type of activities. And so, you know, even though no one wants to go to prison, no one thinks they're gonna get caught, those are, you know, it's basically going to prison is an extension of being in the streets. And so for me personally, you know, thinking like that and embracing that type of thinking is what helped to make things easier for me. You know, especially too, when I went to prison, I was young. You know, I was a card carrying member, I should say, of that street mentality. And so, you know, you have to make the best of a certain situation when you get caught up and you get put in that situation, especially, like I said, by me doing the things that I was doing was voluntary. You know, I've seen dudes, like, say for instance, okay, you got a dude, he might be a part of gang number A. Now he has some of his homies go shoot at gang number B. 15 minutes later, some of the dudes from gang B, they come back gunning for people from gang A. They may not be looking in particular for those exact same shooters. They just looking for anybody from gang A. You know what I'm saying? So you might be hanging down the street on the corner, aware or unaware that some of your homies went over there and shot, and you end up getting shot. Those are consequences that come with being in the gang. I said that to say, I've seen situations where you may have a person from a gang who was he was arrested, but honestly had nothing to do with the crime or the shooting that he was arrested for. But in some certain situations, at times, dudes will want to call, you know, because by you being in that gang, you know who done the shooting 9 times out of 10. I've seen dudes want to call their homeboys and tell them, hey man, you better come turn yourself in for this shooting. They arrested me for something that you did. Now, I'm gonna keep it 100. If one of my homies get arrested for something I do and we both in the gang, I'm not coming to get no motherfucking body. You know what I'm saying? Those are just circumstances that go with voluntarily being in a gang, man. It's extremely unfortunate that they pick your ass up, and I would do for you financially like I would do for any other homie that's caught up in that situation and in prison if I can help him or whatever. But I'm not coming down there to get you. I'm not coming to turn myself in because I didn't send the police at your ass from the get-go. I didn't tell them to go arrest this dude, you know what I'm saying? But see, those are all, you know, potential risks that come with being involved in this type of lifestyle. You know, it's good and it's bad that comes with it. You know, like I said, you could be the dude that go over there and shoot at the dudes from gang B. They drive around the corner 20 minutes later and get shot and shoot me. So I didn't get shot for what I done per se. I got shot for what I was a part of. And all those things, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, come with being in the streets. And so, you know, especially when I was, due to the fact that I was younger, I just, what else can you do except for do your time, and like, you have some people who say, well, everybody in the gangs, everybody. I've heard a dude tell me, actually the dude who produces some of my music, told me, oh man, everybody in the gang snitches. And that's far from the truth. I always like to say that you have dudes who have different levels of dedication to the streets. And it's just all about, I guess it's all about the ideology that a dude embraces. You may have two type of people protesting in front of an abortion clinic. You have one type of people, they just don't carry the signs. They upset, they don't want stuff going down at the abortion clinic or whatever, but all they gonna do is carry the signs. You may have another person who believes in it so strongly, he goes and he bombs the abortion clinic. And basically, that analogy is somewhat the same with the dudes who snitch and the dudes who don't snitch. You may have dudes who just strongly believe in not snitching regardless of the consequences. And I have ran across many of guys like that, man. I know one guy in particular, he was a lifer. He's out now. I don't know, he probably done about 35, 36 years, but he probably had been home 10 years before he finally did make it home, had he not held on to such his firm beliefs about saying anything whatsoever to law enforcement. And this is what I'm saying, right? So he was given a life sentence. So now at a certain point in time, the parole system got revamped in California, and they was given the lifers had actions at going home more than ever. Now, so basically, when you go to a parole hearing, you're not going in there for a retrial, this and that. Basically, they're trying to find out who you were at the time of the shooting and who you were and who you are today. So basically, hey, why did you shoot that person? Because I had a gang mentality. He rolled past, he threw up a gang sign, and since I was a gang member and I believed that it was okay to shoot people from opposing gangs, is why I shot him. Stuff like that, Or you can just go in there and, because when you go to trial, they have a court record, Basically just admit to everything in the record. I have seen dudes go in there and say, hey, you know what? I wasn't involved in this particular shooting at all. The police arrested me. They was wrong, but I was a gang member. I done many things like this. This was the type of individual that I was. So while I wasn't guilty of this crime, I was guilty of other crimes. Anything like that, because now they already have the record, so you can't go in there. So when you get convicted in California, you automatically get an appeal. The appeal goes to the courts. Once it goes through the courts, they have a few different courts that it has to go through if you keep appealing. But once it finally goes through all those courts, and if their decision stands, then pretty much that's what the parole board is believing. You may be able to deviate a little bit and say, well, yeah, no, I wasn't in a white Cutlass, I was in a white Cadillac or something like that. But for the most part, they're believing what you was found guilty of. So this particular dude that I'm talking to, he was even unwilling to go in there and just admit on the record that, hey, whatever they said I did it, because now you have done the time. So now it's all up to you. Do you want to do 25 years in prison, or do you want to extend that 25 to another 35 or 40? So, but this dude was so caught up in his convictions and in his beliefs about conforming to law enforcement in any type, form, or fashion. He stayed in there a long time, more than what he had to. I remember him telling me that one time they called him in when he went to his parole hearing, and they asked him something about his crime E. Now, his crime E happened to be on B yard. He was on A yard. So he told him, call him in here and ask him. He's on B yard. Just stuff like that. So, now, once I ended up leaving, he finally came home, and I heard that he had finally made parole, and I couldn't believe it. But my whole point is, sometimes there are people who are strong in their conviction, and they believe whatever they're participating in. And so I think for myself and many others, it made it easier, not necessarily acceptable, but it made it easier to do the time when you know that you was out there in the street doing things that could lead to prison, man. I ain't gonna necessarily say prison was fun, right? But at times, yeah, I did have fun in prison, because you have to make the best of a bad situation. And so when I first went to prison in California at that time, even if you had life with the possibility of parole, they wasn't releasing no lifers. So you stuck, you know what I'm saying? So it don't make no sense, or it's not gonna do you no good moping around every day. Woe is me, that old type of stuff. So there was times when we had plenty of fun in prison, man. Some of the youngsters, they be in the cell wrestling. You may hear dudes say, "Oh man, I ain't fit to be in prison wrestling with another grown man and this and that." But sometimes, dudes put too much thought into that type of stuff. Like I say, man, the dudes in prison, the youngsters and people, period, are doing the same things that people are doing on the street, minus the the security being watched, the overseers and stuff like that. So basically what I'm saying is, man, to a certain degree, you have 20-year-olds in prison, 23-year-olds, 25-year-olds doing in prison the same stuff other dudes are doing out there. They horse playing, they wrestling, they slap boxing, they telling jokes, they having fun. You know what I'm saying? What you can do may be limited, of course, due to your incarceration. But that's what I'm trying to say, man. So how I was able to do all that time is basically I had no choice. Accepting that I had put myself in that position made it easier for me. But that may that part right there may change from person to person. I seen some dudes who was in there miserable on a daily basis, and like I said, all that stuff comes with the territory, man. And for me too, like I said, I went when I was young, man, and I didn't start reading when I was in prison. I used to read on the street. I had me a small library collection on the street of a lot of black books that I got, and I like to read. One of the books that I got before I went to prison and read several times was the book by Monster Kody. And so for me personally, reading that book and then going to prison and being in prison with some of the people he had mentioned in that book, to me that was almost like surreal. And so when you in prison and you young, anytime you seeing that type of stuff, people fighting or stuff, to a certain degree, it's exciting because it's a lifestyle that you embrace. Now, it came a time when all that stuff, after a period of time, it got old. I'll say, like, when I first got to prison, you may hear, okay, well, man, this dude is getting ready to get stabbed. This car is gonna stab one of their homies today on the yard. Oh, I hear that. I'm outside. I'm on the yard. Oh yeah, I'm trying to see that. I'm get me a seat, sit down. You know what I'm saying? Or get in a certain area, positioning myself to where I can see the activities. But 15, 16 years later, and you hear that, hey man, this car's getting ready to stab a homie. Oh, I'm up in the cell now. I'm not trying to. I've seen all that shit. It's no longer enticing. It's no longer fun. I'm not trying to be laid outside on the ground, because you might be laid outside on the ground for 3-4 hours, depending on the severity of the stabbing or the beating. You might be handcuffed, laid outside in the rain. So, as you mature and see a whole lot of stuff and gain a whole lot of type of wisdom from that lifestyle, you slowly, maybe possibly start pulling back, because when you're young, anytime somebody getting their ass whooped, as long as it's not you, the stuff was fun. Now, if some of you guys are wondering about some of the people who I seen, some of the names or people who I ran across that was named in that Monster Kody book, well, I'll name a few of you guys. I'll name a few names for you guys real quick that I can remember. I ran across, if you guys are familiar with the book, I ran across a dude by the name of Lunatic Frank. He was from Rolling 60s, Monster Kody's enemy. The dude who Monster Kody said taught him Swahili in the hole. I ran across him. I ran across one of his homies by the name of Huckabuck. This dude was he was mentioned in the book several times. I ran across a dude by the name of Joker, who was mentioned in the book. I ran across a dude by the name of Fat Rat. When he's describing they was in the county jail, I ran across him. So I ran across a Blood who, if you're familiar with the book, when he said that he was in juvenile hall and had a cask, And they put him and his homie in a room with a whole bunch of bloods, and they was trying to make him paint his cast red and all that type of stuff. Allegedly, I ran across that blood. The dude told me that he was talking about him. Whether I knew he was really talking about him or not, I don't know. But according to that dude, he was talking about him, you know. So like I said, when you in that lifestyle and you running across all these names that you've heard, these dudes who have movie star status in the gangbanging world, you know, this stuff is somewhat intriguing. Like I say, man, I ran across Big U. I ran across Trey D. I was next door to the Onion Field Killer. The Onion Field Killer is he was a real famous dude maybe back in the 80s. I used to hear my dad talk about him a lot. So he had caught a case, I believe, and he ended up shooting a couple police officers in an onion field somewhere by Riverside or somewhere, you know. Greg, I think his name was Greg Powell. He happened to be my next door neighbor. So, you know, when you subscribe to a certain type of lifestyle, and then you're running across these people who you've heard about their names, and they're notorious for either gang banging or being a convict, you know, that stuff is somewhat appealing, to be honest, you know. And it's not until, like I say, until you mature, you know, you get tired of being in prison, that suddenly you take a step back. But you know, for many years, man, I think for my first maybe, I don't know, 10-15 years, you know, outside of the fact of missing my family and stuff, I mean, I really wasn't too bothered with being in prison, because I felt that I had put myself there, and it came with the territory. You know, you can't celebrate when it's all good, and then when it goes bad, all of a sudden now you want to change your life around just because you locked up. You know, that's how I took it. You know, you have everybody who have different perspectives on that, but that's just me personally, and those are some of the things that made it easier, you know, for me to do all that time, man. You know, they always ask me too about what was it like, you know, to see people stabbed and stuff and get beat up. And once again, you know, that type of stuff, in my opinion, that type of stuff came with the territory, you know. And people ask me what was some of the most gruesome stuff that I seen up in there. And of course, while I seen a lot of people stabbed, to me, I think some of the things that stand out the most is just the beatings. Some of the beatings was more they stuck with me more than some of the actual stabbings, because you may see somebody stabbed from a distance, you know, you see the dude, you know, poking the dude or whatever, and the dude twitching or whatever, but you're not, you know, it's just that you seeing that. But I told a story, and I believe the name of that story was The Asian Car Get Active, and I happened to see the Asians beat up this other Asian. I forget the name of the name that I gave the dude in that particular story, because I was trying not to reveal his real name. But his beating seemed to stick with me more, I believe. First of all, I was only maybe 10 to 15 feet away. You know, this dude, he came out, he was an Asian. He got into it with the rest of the Asian car. I believe they was upset with him because he was involved in homosexual activity. And so really they basically dirty politicked him. He worked in the program office, and he was in a position to where he could move people, basically. And so the agents wanted one of their homies moved to a particular cell, and he didn't do it fast enough or quick enough to their liking. So they went over there and basically fired on him, knocked him down or whatever. So he ran into the cell, act like he was coming back with a knife, and came out barehanded. But now when he runs in the cell, all the agents get together on the yard, you know. So it's maybe about 20-25 of them over there. So long story short, he comes out, he runs up on him acting like he had a knife, pulls his hand out of his pocket. He's empty-handed. They all jump on him, pounce on him, beat him down. And so, you know, they was kicking the dude in the face, man. And being that close, hearing him get kicked in the face repeatedly with those hard state boots, you know, just the sound of those boots kicking him to the face, I guess, was kicking him in the face, was more personal than maybe viewing a person getting stabbed, you know. And then especially, this is the dude who I used to talk to, I used to play basketball with. We had a small rapport, you know, talk. He was a friend, you know. And so stuff like that sometimes I believe is even more gruesome and unsettling than some of the stabbings and stuff, you know, because you could hear the thud of this dude being kicked in his face. But you know, and when you see stuff like that, even though this dude, you know, someone I considered a friend, it's not my business, you know. It's not my business. So only thing I really could do is sit there and pray and hope that they didn't kill the dude, you know, which to me, they damn near came close to. I mean, because they kicked the dude damn near into a state of unconsciousness. So, but that type of stuff, you know, it was damn near weekly. It was damn near weekly activity in prison. You know, it's definitely gonna be 3 or 4 fights, you know, within the week. You're gonna see fights, stabbings, you know, stuff like that. And so when you subscribe to that type of lifestyle and you accept that all these things come within this lifestyle, then that time is easier to do, you know. And I remember even having a few gang members ask me, man, damn, man, how is it doing life, man? I don't think I could do a life sentence. And I would tell them, well, then I don't necessarily think you really was out there gang banging, or you need to quit, because anybody can get caught up on a life sentence when you are gang related, you gang affiliated. You know, you don't necessarily have to be a shooter. You know, I've heard stories of, you know, people just riding with their friends and get pulled over, you know, in a car that maybe was reported to be the vehicle used in a drive-by a day or two before. You know, I told a story of one time where I mentioned about I had a friend, man, who his brother and another friend went and did a robbery in his mom's car. So somebody got the license plate. A couple of days later, they come to this dude's house. Now, of course, the friend that his brother done the robbery with is long gone, but they arrest him and his brother. This dude had nothing to do with it, but he didn't tell on his brother, and he ended up coming to prison. I forget exactly how long, maybe like 5-7 years, something like that. So I mean, you know, when you're involved in these street activities and stuff like that, sometimes you possibly may go to prison for something that you didn't do, and it just comes with the territory. So like I say, for me, just having this type of mind state made it easier for me over a period of time. Yeah, you know, once I matured and just, you know, prison got old, man. I would say definitely somewhere around 2014, 2015, you know. I got arrested initially 1994, and, you know, just seeing the change in attitudes of people that you're doing time with, you know, it makes you like start thinking and stuff, you know, like getting into it with other cars, and it might be 20, you know, you might have 20 homies on the yard and only 10 show up, you know, stuff like that. Just, it makes people start maturing, makes you start, you know, second guessing, you know, your decisions and stuff like that. The food starts getting old. And then for me personally, it was just doing the same thing pretty much day in and day out. So, you know, you might wake up at 6:30 in the morning. At 7 o'clock, you go eat. And for the most part, especially breakfast is the same every single day. On Mondays, they'd have this. On Tuesdays, they'd have that. On Wednesdays, they'd have this. The same stuff every single day. Now, at dinner, they would deviate a whole lot, and it would be, you know, something different at dinner. They wouldn't have the exact same stuff every day at dinner. But on Fridays, they always had fish for dinner. On Saturdays, I believe they always had pancakes for breakfast. But just stuff like that, you know. Then, so after you eat your breakfast, you go to the yard maybe. Me personally, I would play a little basketball, exercise. You know, I've told y'all many a times, I always tried to have jobs that wasn't really like jobs. So I tried to work the least amount of time that I could and stuff. And, you know, so it was just, you know, being bored pretty much, you know. So after I work out, I'd go in, I'd take a shower. I might go to the day room, play some chess, play some dominoes, you know, just after a while, just doing the same thing day in and day out. And then the real bad part about, I think, having life as opposed to having what in California, what they call a determinate sentence is, which means, you know, when you're coming home, like if you sentenced to 15 years, your parole date might be in 2013. You sentenced to 3 years, your parole date might be in 2004. You at least know when you're coming home. You know what I'm saying? Having a life sentence, there was no potential end to when you may come home. You may or you may not come home. And so, so people ask me, man, how was I able to do all that time? I pretty much had no choice. You pretty much have no choice in the matter. Either commit suicide, get killed up in there. Other than that, you gonna do your time. So anyway, man, I'll probably hit y'all back in a day or two with some more topics, more questions. People ask me about certain things in the penitentiary or whatever. You already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.